such a high concentration of gar right here. Here we go. What we got here?
This week on Kentucky Afield. It's one of the best fisheries in the world, and it's just outside of the state's largest city. We're at the Falls of the Ohio.
Tell you what, when you come to the river, you gotta be ready for anything. You never know what you're gonna catch.
Next, Nolin River Lake isn't too shabby either, especially when it comes to white bass. Then, we're still on the water, but we're not fishing. We're learning more about the Commonwealth's freshwater mussels. It's all next on Kentucky Afield.
Kentucky Afield. Every week, Kentucky Afield brings you features on hunting and fishing across the state.
That's my pup. I'm proud of him.
Here he comes right there. Let's get ready. Get ready.
Look at that. What a nice fish. Hey, we dug it up right there.
We did.
There he is. Ooh, a nice one too. Boy, he's healthy.
What do we got?
That was awesome. Got the first help.
Got one big smallmouth.
Very nice.
Double point. They're in there.
There they go.
Oh my gosh. Woo! Look at that joker. Look at that. Beautiful. Whoa, this is a good one.
That's better than good, Chad.
Hello, and welcome to Kentucky Afield. I'm your host, Chad Miles. Join us as we journey the Commonwealth in search of outdoor adventure. I love fishing on the Ohio River below the Falls of the Ohio, but when it comes to what species you catch, sometimes you have to be willing to take what the river gives you. Well, I'm right here just steps away from the parking lot of the Falls of the Ohio over in Indiana. This is a place I like to come several times throughout the year, usually in the morning or in the afternoon, and June is a great time of year to come down here. One of the reasons I love it is it's so close, there's always fish here, and when the water conditions are right, like they look like they are today, you never know what you're gonna catch. I'll tell you what, when I come down here to the river, you're gonna lose some tackle. I like to use a wire that is a little more of a light wire hook, and I usually throw it on braid. It a lot of times allows me to straighten this hook out and get it back. Now, you catch or you hook into a 30 or 40 pound fish, you might regret that decision because you're gonna have to use a lot of drag and hopefully you can get it in. But otherwise, it seems like I'm retying all the time. Here we go, we got a fish on. It's good little practice when I get a fish I really want to get in because this is probably the route they're going to take. Over the dam and back up. All right. Perfect. Just such a high concentration of gar right here. Comes another one probably. I'll tell you one thing, these are rod benders, whatever they are. A drum. That fish actually tried to hit and missed it and made him feel a lot bigger because he's foul hooked in the back. Oh, drum. And they are fun to catch, but after a little bit, they kind of just give up on you. That one there was going, he was trying to go up the river. He's getting out of here. Here we go. What we got here? Another drum. Hey, a lot easier to bring in when they're actually hooked in the mouth. I'll tell you what, the interesting thing about fishing down here in these fossil beds is that every time you come, it's a new experience, even though the bottom really isn't changing. I've got to figure out where there's seams that are in this fossil bed, and where those seams are is where the water runs all the time. Well, you've got more water there. So you might be casting over a seam or just shy of a seam, and you got to figure out where that deeper water is, because that's a lot of times the fish will be sitting pretty close to that. Thing is, it doesn't give you a real wide area to fish, so I make long casts a lot of times to fish 5 or 6 feet stretch of water, and the rest of it's almost too shallow. So every time you come, it's about figuring out where those spots are at, and that's a lot of times going to hold the fish. Man, how I'd love for this to be a sport fish, but just don't have that much confidence. Tell you what, when you come to the river, you gotta be ready for anything. You never know what you're gonna catch. Kind of hoping for hybrids today, but if you just want to get your line stretched, well, these will definitely do the trick. You know, generally, as a fisherman, normally don't like to see those cormorants. They're such aggressive fish eaters. But when you're trying to locate fish, one thing's for sure, if those cormorants are diving, there's bait. Here we go. The cormorant may try to eat my fish. Right under it. Another drum. Today, it really is rough fish that are piled in here, and there's not a whole lot of water. It's kind of not very deep, and these fish are in here and open and willing to bite. Well, when that happens, I'm willing to come down here and stretch a line and try to have a day of catching who knows what. I tell you what, the whole thing of hooking a fish though and fighting in that current, watching it go through the riffles over this little rock waterfall here, and then fighting it back up the other side, pretty fun. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Thank goodness he got off. Oh, he did not off. Thought he got off. Oh my goodness. I think he got off and hit it again. Look how aerodynamic those fish are, how they can just shoot straight up that rough water. Actually hooked some bigger than this one today, but I think it's the first one we got all the way in. Now I gotta find a spot to secure my feeding so that I can grab this fish. Now you never want to reach down and grab one of those. It looks like you got a handle hanging out there. That handle is covered in teeth. You do not want to reach down there and try to grab that fish. You would regret it. Let me get better. Oh, perfect, there we go, look at there. It's exactly what we wanted right there. Got my lure back, turned him loose. Hey, I must be living right. What we got here? Feels like another gar. They've been getting off quite a bit. It's another drum. Tell you what, getting a perfect combination of a rod that will cast a long, long way, but has enough backbone to pull a fish like this through, takes the right rod selection. Is that a good one? A good what, I don't know, but it's something big. Another drum. A hard fighting fish, man. As many fish as I'm catching today, this is a perfect way to spend the morning and come out and catch a lot of fish. Here we go. All right, here we go. Another drum. Tell you what, these things are crazy. You got a chance to come down here and catch just tons of fish. I don't know how many pounds of fish I've caught today, but tons and tons of fish. It's kind of crazy coming down and being able to do this right outside the city limits of Louisville. It's a great location to come for just a morning or an evening, walk in and catch fish like this pretty much all day long. Getting out on the boat and catching white bass in the jumps is sometimes just what the doctor ordered. So Nolin River, Nolin Lake, and white bass just kind of go together. I'm down here with a good buddy of mine, Dr. Josh Honecker, and we're in search of the white bass.
Yeah, Nolin's known for it, and through the years we've fished for him a lot of times, and it's an exciting, fun venture.
Yeah, you know, I love fishing down here for these white bass when they get in the jumps. A couple things you'd look for is lack of wind and not a lot of boat traffic. So right here in the middle of the week, this is a really good time to get out here and try to catch them.
You know, this time of year, if you just drive around enough, you'll see some schools. And they cycle in the years. You know, some years are better than others. And recently, it seems like they've been more active.
This is a good thing to do to get out and catch big numbers of fish when they're on. It's a great way to get a kid or introduce a new person to fishing.
It's highly active, and you never know, you might catch a largemouth in the jumps as well.
Absolutely. I fully suspect we probably will. It's supposed to be 96 degrees today. It's going to be a get out early, finish early, but hopefully we start seeing some schools of jumping fish. I'm starting to see them right here. Look out here.
Yeah, right in front of us.
Matter of fact, we're going to turn the boat off and get ready because I fully suspect that any second we're going to start having fish on. I'm going to start off with a topwater bait just because it's so exciting to see them blow up on topwater.
Yep.
Oh, here we go. White bass number one. Now that's a little one. I'll tell you what, one thing, if you're throwing any type of lure like this that has treble hooks, I tell you, a must is to have a set of pliers. If you've never eaten white bass, you know how to fillet these, they are fantastic. So incredibly good to eat. But we're gonna throw them back today, and this is a little bitty one, probably about 8 inches.
Oh, there's one.
You got him?
Yep.
That's a better fish?
Well, I don't know about better.
That's a little bit better than the one I caught.
Maybe a little bit.
This lake has an enormous population of plus 15 fish, and I have caught them up to 18 inches in here, so.
Yeah, numbers and size this lake's known for. Here's another.
Bam, you got another one already.
Even when the water quits boiling, you still catch them.
Aren't they such a hard-fighting fish for their size?
Just like a smallmouth, you think they're twice their size. That one's got a blind eye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that compared to that side.
Look at this. Now, this is a spotted bass. You got a good chance of catching both largemouth, spotted bass, and white bass out here doing this. I've even caught bluegill, all kinds of opportunities. I'm gonna go to a swim bait approach here for a few casts. Oh, there he is.
Change to a different tail spinner. This is a spinnerite. We'll probably talk a little bit more about it later. It's a unique history.
A history very close to where we're at right here.
Very close, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Look at there, nice white bass. Look, here we go. They're not really jumping like crazy, but they're here.
Right.
We're catching smaller size that I've been catching down here this year, but we're still early. I mean, the sun just came up.
When you're fishing with someone else, you want to make sure you're getting different levels because the schools, some are deeper, some are, you know, more shallow. You've got swim bait, I got a 1/4 ounce spin right on, so we're going to hit different layers here. And sometimes those bigger ones are definitely down deeper.
Look at there.
That's where both hooks got this fish.
Oh, up in front of us, a big pod.
There they are.
Here we go. White bass, black bass, what do we think? It's like a little white bass.
Probably white bass. Here's one. That's probably an average Nolin white bass size.
12, 13 inches
Yep.
probably?
Just bigger than the ones we've been catching this morning.
Oh, another spotted bass. See you, buddy. Josh, that little bait you're throwing, you're really catching them. Now that is one of the original tail spinners. It's called the Pettigo Spin, right?
Yeah, so my grandfather was really good friends with Cecil Pettigo, the inventor of the lure, and they were big, avid fishing buddies. But then they quit making it in the late 70s, and honestly, the Pettigo Spin right, it sat idle for almost 40 years. And I found out the trademark had lapsed in 2008. I filed for the trademark, got it back in production, and on the back of the lure package, I put a picture of my grandfather and showed a big stringer of bass that he caught with it back in the 60s. It's just bringing back one of those oldies but goodies.
It's a good presentation because they can see it, they can feel the vibration. It's a good way to go after them. A little bit better.
Got one.
You got one too?
Yeah, this one's a little bit bigger.
Look at that now, I'll tell you what, I've got a pretty good 14-inch fish. You've got one, looks like it's even better.
This is our best double of the morning, no doubt. Look at that. Another quality white bass.
People see us throwing all these white bass back in here, they're gonna think we're crazy. So when you start seeing these fish out there jumping, what you're seeing is predatory fish. They come out and they get in schools, and almost like you've seen on TV where you've got sharks or whales that will circle. They will circle and gather that bait up, and then it's like a feeding frenzy. They all go at the same time and they just start eating everything they can see. And they scatter the bait. It's a cycle that keeps going over and over and over.
There you go.
See if I can't get one on this top water. I love catching them on top water when I can get them to bite it. Oh, there we go. I tell you what, this little bigger plug, I've been catching bigger fish down here. And if you notice this bigger plug, the very first one I caught, look at that, it's probably 15-inch fish.
There's one.
Got him?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Oh man, I tell you what, I can't think of a better way to get kids outdoors than to get them out here and do this. You know, we're coming off of a crazy year, 2020 with COVID and no school, and life as you know it has just been different.
Being on the water and the outdoors, period, just recharges you. It allows your emotional well-being to be optimized. Our kids, so many of them, just don't get any exposure to nature. You know, there's a book that you gave me a few years ago. It's called Last Child in the Woods, and it talked about something called nature deficit disorder. Kids that don't get to go out as much, they don't have as much energy and excitement about life, and they tend to have more anxiety and depression and struggle with emotional well-being. We do see it improve when they get outside.
Oh, here we go. Well, Josh, this was a lot of fun. We got out here, got to catch some white bass and black bass. I didn't need your medical services to take a hook out of my hand. That's a good day.
It was a great morning, a beautiful morning. Couldn't have scripted any better.
I'll tell you what, it's a great opportunity to get out here and reconnect with old friends, and this is a great way to get a kid off a computer out here casting and catching these fish.
Yeah, just spend some time outdoors, connect with nature, and if you get tight lines every once in a while, it's all the better.
Just watch those treble hooks.
That's right.
Freshwater mussels are some of the most amazing aquatic species that you probably never spend much time thinking about. But there is so much to learn. That's why we're about ready to jump into Green River and learn all about freshwater mussels from Dr. Monte McGregor. Monty, I have to tell you, I've been with the Department of Fish and Wildlife for about 13 years now, and this is something I've always wanted to do, was to get out here on the Green River with you. For someone like yourself that has studied mussels your entire life, this kind of is nirvana, is it not?
For freshwater mussels, this is it. This is one of the best places in the world. 75 species, which is 1/3 of North American fauna, right here in the Green River.
You spend a lot of time working on a lot of mussels, but especially the endangered mussels, and I think that's a little bit what we're doing today, right?
Right. This river has 17 federally listed species as threatened or endangered. We have 27 endangered mussels in Kentucky, and so we have a large portion of them here in the Green, and this is one of the best rivers we have left in the Ohio River system.
So when someone says mussels, you know, it's a part of the environment, but they're really, really important because mussels are essentially filters.
They're our filter feeders. They're pulling out all the mud and silt, which nobody likes. They're also eating things that can harm us, like bacteria, even harmful algae. They're eating that material and getting it out of the water. So there's over probably 50 to 100,000 little filters out there running constantly. And these things are not small. They sometimes are the size of a baseball, sometimes the size of a dinner plate.
So one of those endangered or federally listed species is the one we're actually putting in today, right?
That's right, and this is called the pink mucket. And this is a species that we've been working with for a while now. Our first release of that species was in 2007 at this site. So 12 years later, we're coming back and we're bringing more. We have several thousand in the Green River now at about 10 locations. So we think after a couple more years, we're going to be done with that species as far as reintroducing it. We're already seeing them reproduce in the wild. And so it's just a matter of time now before we see juveniles popping up at different places from where we put them.
Wow, now that's incredible. When you can start getting natural repopulation, that's really the ultimate goal, right?
That's the goal.
This is the pink mucket, right?
That's correct.
So obviously the very first thing that's going to get your attention is the green and the purple. I have actually been down to the facility and tagged these before. These are tags. Tell me what these tags mean.
Well, these tags are a way that we can track individuals. So this one here, for instance, has a little B tag on it with the number 29. So we measured this animal and have recorded it. So that way, if we find it 5 years from now, we'll know how much it's grown. The purple just basically indicates the year class. So everything that goes out in 2019 has purple on it. So it makes it a little easier.
How old are these?
They're 2 years old.
How long will it take these to be able to start producing offspring?
Year 5 and 6. So these about 3 or 4 more years from now, you should start seeing them reproduce. The animal can hold several thousand little tiny caterpillar larvae. So those have to contact a fish host. So usually the fish has to get close enough to it that they can shoot the larvae out of the water and hit the gills. And then this one here is a species that it has a little fishing like lure that's maybe 2 to 3 inches long. It'll sit there and jerk it back and forth, and then a bass comes along, strikes at that, and as soon as it hits it, it'll actually get larvae loaded on its gills.
So to bring this species back, you have to first find out what it prefers as a host fish, check the populations of those in this particular stream, because if that's down, then you already know there's potentially
That's exactly
a problem.
right.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm very interested to see where you're going to put these in, and then are we going to check and see if we locate any mussels from previous years?
We are, and we're going to look and see what kind of species are here and look at the tremendous diversity. We're going to see a lot of mussels today.
So, Monty, what are these sticks you have in the water here for?
In order to monitor a site, we have to mark the site. So we want to measure from the bank, and we have a GPS coordinates, and we randomly sample in the coordinate system in the grid. We want to put this on the bottom of the river, and we want to count everything that's inside this grid. And then we will move it to a random location, and we'll do this 100 and 200 times sometimes. That'll give us a good estimate of how many mussels are in the whole area. We don't know what we're going to get here, but we're going to see what we can find, and then hopefully we'll see a lot of different kinds and maybe even a rare one or two.
So, Laura, you've been with the department for a long time.
I have.
And you're working now with Kentucky Wild. You said this is the first time you've made this
It
trip.
is. I've been really excited to come out in the field with Monty and his crew, so this is the first time for me to go help restore endangered mussels.
You know, we all work in Frankfurt. We've been down to the mussel facility. We see some of the great work that they do, but to get out in the field and see how it's impacting this river system is amazing.
Yeah, it is really exciting. And you know, Kentucky Wild, even though it's a really new program, I've worked here since 1994. We've had a staff of folks that work just on the species that maybe folks don't hear about. Things like bats and salamanders and songbirds, birds of prey, all those creatures that are out there and make up 90% of what Kentucky's wildlife are, but many folks don't ever see, and mussels are a perfect example of that.
Endangered.
Wow. So that is the catch out of a 1 meter square. And a lot of different species of mussels here, right? You're going to go through them and figure out what we've got.
All kinds of them. This is the pink mucket, and we're going to be releasing these today, but this one was put out 2 years ago, so we know they're doing pretty good. So we're glad to have these here now in the population. Here's another federal endangered species called the fan shell. This species is actually doing fairly well in Kentucky. In the green in the Licking River, it's got some of the best populations in the world. This is a monkey face. We can see we've got 3 different ages here. You can tell by all the little lines on here how old they are.
Okay.
So you can just look at the little rings, kind of like you do a tree. This is a fluted shell. It gets its name from these little ridges on the side. We have a pistol grip. This one used to be called the buckhorn.
You said pistol grip. Is it
Right.
because
It's
of
like
this?
this right here.
Yep.
It's the shape of a pistol, the
Yeah.
handle of a pistol.
Gotcha.
We have the 3 ridge. This gets fairly large. This is a fairly small one, but it can get pretty large. And the mucket. This is the most common thing we have in the green. And there's a young one right there.
Right there beside it.
This is called the pink hill splitter, and it gets its name because when it's in the substrate, it'll be like that, and you step on it, it can really injure your foot.
Look at this one. It's cracked.
It's been stepped on or something, but it's repaired itself. And so it's pretty remarkable that it can do that.
It's fantastic.
This is a spike, and here's a closely related one called the kidney shell. This is the wavy rayed lamp mussel. This is the pocketbook. There's a lot of comical names to these guys.
Well, I'd say we get these back to the grid and release some new ones today.
That's a good idea.
Now let's check in and see who else has been out having fun in this week's Ones That Didn't Get Away. Here we have Noah Collins with his very first catfish, and man, is it a nice one. He caught this fish while fishing with his dad, Jeremy. Check out the size of this beautiful grass carp caught by Jericho Benoit. This fish was caught at Peabody WMA in Hopkins County. Nice fish. 11-year-old Landon Walker caught this nice largemouth bass in Harrison County while fishing at a farm pond. Congratulations. Anna White knows how to have some fun, and that is setting limb lines for catfish on Del Hollow Lake. Check out this nice trophy. 2 of our summer holiday weekends are now behind us, and now it's time to start thinking about our fall hunting seasons. This is the time to start getting ready. And remember, hunting and fishing on private property is a privilege. Always ask permission and thank the landowner. Until next week, I'm your host, Chad Miles, and I hope to see you in the woods or on the water.